and welcome to the ThinkMHK podcast presented by the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce. On this podcast, you will hear about a variety of local matters pertaining to the business community. You also hear from local business owners to hear their story and gain valuable business insights. Thanks for tuning in today. We have a great guest today with us on the ThinkMHK podcast. It is our new executive director for Visit Manhattan, Marcia Rozell. Hey, Marcia.
Hi, Jason.
So, first of all, congratulations on your new appointment.
Thank you. Thank you
I'm
very much.
assuming that you're excited.
I'm very excited.
Ready to go. So we always have guests tell us a little bit about themselves and how they ended up in Manhattan.
My family moved here in 1997. My husband got a job at K-State University, and that brought us here. It's been a great fit for us for raising our kids. You know, we grew up in Missouri, so it's not a far distance to come to Kansas.
And you are a Missouri Tiger, right?
I am a Missouri Tiger, yes.
But we've converted you because your husband
Absolutely. We
got
bleed
a job
purple.
at Kansas State. And he's been at Kansas State for how long?
Since 1997, so 26 years we've been here.
And what department is, he's a professor, correct?
He is. He teaches in animal science, teaches anatomy and physiology in animal science. So one of the largest classes. We tend to run into his students all the time, all over.
And you grew up in Missouri?
We did. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. And then went to Columbia, Missouri for college, and then did a little stint down in Texas. Was there for a year before going to the Northwest to get my master's up at the University of Idaho. And that was we call that our honeymoon time because we didn't have kids and we camped all over the Northwest before coming to Iowa and then to Kansas.
Yeah. And so when you originally came to Manhattan and you had a degree in education, if I remember.
Animal science. I've got a degree. I should have gotten my degree in education.
That was what we talked about.
Yep. I should have gotten it in education. I actually started it when I was pregnant with our kids, thinking my husband was never going to get a job after grad school. And so I did get some education classes under my belt. So we came, and I was fortunate enough to be a stay-at-home mom for those first few years that we came here. And then I got involved in the school district and worked at the school district before then coming to the chamber.
And what did you do at the school district? That was what I remember you working for the schools. So yeah, what did you do for them?
I was a paraeducator, so I worked in the computer lab and I also was in the reading room.
Okay. And then, so what were the circumstances that led you joining Visit Manhattan?
Oh, that's a great story. So back in 2008, I was in St. Louis. Unfortunately, my mom was in the hospital. I was spending a lot of time there with her. And I was realizing that my kids were leaving the school district as far as Marlette Elementary School. And so it was time for me to do something else. And just started thinking about it. And I ran into Karen Hibbard at church one day. And I said, I know you know a lot of people, and I'm looking to do something different. And she said, well, I have a job open. And so the rest is kind of history. She hired me. And it was probably because I had set chairs for Country Stampede for 2 years with our church group. And so it was a great relationship. And I always will appreciate that about her.
Yeah, Karen was one of those people that every year at Stampede would not only was she a sponsor, but she would get out there and do all the hard work that she asked volunteers to do as well. So what are some of the more memorable events that you've helped bring to the community?
Well, one I was just reflecting on this weekend with the Bill Snyder Highway Half is back in 2014, I brought the Color Run to Manhattan. And so it was a situation where I went to a trade show and met the planner, which was Dale Jensen, and he wanted to bring the Color Run to Manhattan. And we decided we'd host it out of Bill Snyder Stadium's parking lot. And that then prompted the two guys from the running company to say, we should be doing that. And so we did. And so that was kind of a neat event that was an impetus for the Bill Snyder Highway Half.
And so the Bill Snyder Highway Half started in what
2015.
A large crowd for that?
It was a large crowd. I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but we were finishing on the practice field because the stadium had some turf remodeling that was getting done. So a lot of great positive experiences for all those athletes, those runners that came from all over the world. There's definitely different states that come to run in the Highway Half.
But your focus for Visit Manhattan has been in sports and we've talked about before, your title is actually sports and leisure.
Correct. Yes.
Leisure is an outdated word in some circles, but so it's mainly sports.
It is mainly sports, and so that's been my background. Another one was a geocaching event that I brought. That just people that geocache go all over the world looking for those cache sites, and so that was one in 2017. 2017. And then just recently, the Kansas Special Olympics basketball. That was a very memorable one, very emotional. It's great to have all those athletes here. They are competitive on the court and great friends off the court.
And I know the other one that you've been very active with is the Gravel Duro.
The Gravel Duro, yep. So we have the Bleeding Kansas Gravel Duro is a bike race that we've decided to put on here in town, and it will be downtown on July.
Well, the finish will be downtown.
The finish will, yes. They're out on the gravel roads all over. But
how many miles is that? It's
going to be it's going to be 80 this
80?
year. Yeah.
Okay.
So we've learned to have two different courses, one short course and one long course.
And Kansas has kind of become famous for these gravel races, right? Because
there's
a big one in Emporia. And
that's this weekend. Yeah.
Okay.
The Unbound is this weekend. So
and then this one is
it's growing. Yeah. The Bleeding Kansas Gravel Duro. We know we've got a lot of great gravel roads around us that we need to utilize. And so again, partners in the community that we brought together. So Dave Colburn, who'd been at the Pathfinder, Ben Siegel with timing. And so now we've got some young guys that are joining our committee to try to grow that event.
And that is something from the sports realm that a lot of people don't know or haven't thought about. But Ben and Trey with the running company and Red Dirt Racing,
yes,
they are very instrumental in bringing a lot of things here, right?
They absolutely are. So, and I'll always want to work with local planners like them because they've got skin in the game. They have to see people in the grocery store. And so when they put on an event, they do it top notch and they make sure that the experience that those athletes have is great.
So you've been doing this now for how many years? Were you the sports and leisure director?
Well,
15?
Since 2010. So
okay, so 13.
Yeah, 13 years of that, yeah.
So what made you decide? Obviously, Karen was here the whole time.
She
so
was,
it wasn't
absolutely.
like there weren't any. But what made you decide with Karen's retirement to put your hat in the ring for the director's position?
Sure. I knew I could make a difference. And so I really am passionate about this community. I wanted to make sure that moving forward, we've got a great foundation. Karen Hibbert and Becky Blake before me had a great foundation for the Manhattan Convention and Visitors Bureau. And I knew that I could take it and take it to the next step, next level. And so I'm excited. We've got a lot of very interesting things coming open here soon. I mean, we just cut the ribbon on NBAF for sure. That will bring, different types of conferences to town. And then we've got the Museum of Art and Light that will be coming. It's being built right now. It's exciting to watch. We've got the Wareham Theater. We've got the Edge District that's coming up. So a lot of good things happening. And I knew I could make a difference to get more visitors to town.
And you talked about Karen and Becky, and we've been very fortunate. We've talked on this show before, but very fortunate to have had two directors in 44 years, basically for the entire existence of what used to be the Manhattan Convention Visitors Bureau, now Visit Manhattan. And so you have big shoes to fill in terms of longevity. That's a lot of experience in two people. But the interesting thing is they're both still in town.
Yes, they are readily available. I have them on speed dial. Yes, exactly. I can certainly rely on their wisdom and leadership that they've shared with me over the years.
So what strengths do you think you bring to this new role?
My strengths are my passion for the community, my work ethic. I have a hard work ethic. And then also the connections that I have in this community. I've really hit the ground running since May 17th when we've announced this. And it's easy to work with the good partners that we have to establish those deeper relationships now that I'm in this role and to just move the needle.
Yeah. So when you talk about those partners, give me some examples, not necessarily of individuals, but the kinds of people, the industries that you're talking to.
Sure. So it's definitely our hoteliers, our restaurateurs, our attractions. We've got some great attractions in this community. We know that they bring in people that people travel to see and do. And so those different partners are important for us to work with and have a good relationship with, because there's a lot of times we'll get a call that a travel writer is coming. And I want to be able to make sure that we take them to places and get them in the doors if we need to, either off hours or behind the scenes. And so it's all those relationships. When people see that I'm calling them, that they know that I'm calling them for a good reason, that they'll respond.
So, and we didn't talk about this in the show yet, but the Convention Visitors Bureau, now Visit Manhattan, is part of the chamber.
It is.
So as such, one of my responsibilities, we have a great staff who they manage all the day-to-day operations of the Visit Manhattan and the Bureau, but one of my responsibilities is hiring this position. So I was responsible for hiring you. And so
Thank you.
Thank you very much for accepting the position. But I know one of the things that I talked to our executive committee before we made the announcement. I said, I've got good news and bad news. So the good news is I think I have a new director, and we're going to offer the job to Marcia, and I feel very comfortable that she's going to accept that. The bad news is now we have to replace Marcia.
Right.
So we spent all this time trying to get a full staff, and because we had this position that was vacant and we filled it. Now it's out of my hands. So now it's your responsibility to figure out how to replace yourself. So talk about what that's going to look like, and how do you think you're going to move forward in that role?
Sure. So right away, that was the first thing I did Monday morning, was get that job description listed and out there. So this is a shameless plug. If you know anyone that's looking for a sales sports.
Well, of course, we may have it filled by the time this is.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
we hopefully do.
Yeah,
yes.
But again, if it's not, just forward all resumes to Marcia.
Exactly.
So.
And so we're moving forward with as a sports sales manager is the title. We're taking off that leisure part.
As an aside, we're teasing, but we've talked about it before. That is a odd
it's an older
expression.
Term. Yes.
And so we have decided at your direction to drop leisure from that title.
Yes. So that individual will focus on sports, and really there's so much more we can do with bringing sports to town as far as working with K-State. I know we've got some great things happening with our Wildcats. All of our teams are going gangbusters and doing well. That also just draws more attention. Planners want to come and utilize those facilities, and I believe that K-State's a little more open to that now. So that new person will start building those relationships, making those things happen, and hopefully bringing even more sports to town.
And of course, recently we hosted the 3A baseball tournament, which is at Torrington
State
every year, and so we appreciate Kansas State being willing to share that. And then we host 2A basketball annually, although we won't have that next year.
We won't. There's a conflict
because of some
with this.
conflict.
Yeah.
But they're always very generous in letting us use Bramlage for 2A basketball, and we wouldn't have either one of those without that. So we appreciate.
We do appreciate that,
their willingness to do that. So, do you have any goals that you've set for the first year, both for yourself and for the organization?
We just did a strategic plan, so I'm working through the details of that plan because those goals will be set according to that plan. But basically, it's to work hard to make sure we get more visitors into town, and that there's more economic impact that results from all of that good tourism.
And you almost said economic development. It is economic development, and we've, Karen was very adamant that no one chooses to move or locate a business to Manhattan unless they visit first. And so we have to make sure people have good experiences when they come to town. And so along those lines, you plan to continue the program that we started last year.
The Treat 'em Right?
Yeah, the Treat 'em Right program. Talk a little bit about that
and
why you think that's important to continue.
It's a great program. That Treat 'em Right program is that frontline hospitality training that it does 30 minutes for frontline staff to take. It's a great onboarding for businesses to utilize. I know we get a lot of turnover in our frontline staff. And so it's a great way that we're all on the same page. So when a visitor comes to town and they ask, what is there to do? That it's easy to say, here's a place of resource on our website. We have a calendar of events and firsthand knowledge that they've gotten out in the community and that they know these places that they're sharing with the visitor to experience.
So why is Manhattan a great place to visit?
Because it's a great place to live.
You know, it's interesting. And the day that we recorded this, I just saw this, I think yesterday, but there was a publication that listed Manhattan as the top mid-sized community in the country to visit. What were some of the reasons for that ranking? I mean, that's first of all, like number 2 was New Braunfels, which is, I think most people, and certainly in Texas, but in kind of the southwest part of the country, recognize New Braunfels as a great place to visit. So for Manhattan to finish ahead of New Braunfels, what were some of the things that they talked about in that article that made it special?
It's some of the districts that we have, certainly Aggieville, downtown, some of the places where you can get that local cuisine. Kind of, we've talked about being, experience it like a local. And so I do think it comes back to the quality of life that we have here in Manhattan. And so when you go to a place and you're visiting, you get to see what the locals see, and it just pulls them in. It makes it a place where they realize they might consider moving here if they're looking for a job. But I think it's it's a great community that's got lots of life, lots of energy. Certainly with the university in Fort Riley, we've got a lot of people that come and go. So it is a transient community. And so it's interesting to meet new people from all over the world that come here and they're calling it home for a while. So when you travel and you experience that culture, it's just seeing that insight and experiencing that.
Yeah. And you think about, particularly as you all looked to target associations and other large groups for conferences and conventions. And the fact that our conference center is downtown.
It is. It's walkable.
It's connected to the Discovery Center, which is a great venue. Now coming up, the new Art and Light Museum. And then easy to get to downtown where you have unique restaurants, unique shopping experiences, and even the mall. I mean, you think about how many malls are downtown,
right?
And the IMAX and all the things that go along with that.
So much to do.
I mean, there are major cities that don't have that kind of opportunity. We're in a walkable district with their conference center. And so we do have, I think, a lot of unique things that we can offer to, particularly after the Art and Light Museum opens up. And you have all these venues you can go off-site. It's pretty incredible.
It is. It's very incredible. It's one of our best selling points is that walkability and getting people into the area, because when you have to figure out the transportation, it makes it harder. And so this is good for our health, good for our mental health to get out. And Blue Earth Plaza certainly is gorgeous with the green and the water and the history of that area. So yeah, we're very fortunate.
And while not the biggest airport in the world, having an airport matters too.
Yes, it does. Absolutely matters. We're feeling it a little bit right now because we're under a big construction project, but we're looking forward to September when it reopens and people can make it easy into Manhattan from Chicago and Dallas.
Yeah, and of course, about a year ago, Jen Alley came onto the team as our convention salesperson. You know, what has she meant to the organization? And our ability to attract more meetings.
Just her knowledge and insight from being on the hotelier side makes a huge difference for our team. She brings a wealth of information. She knows how to interact with the planner, knows what they need, and as asking detailed questions. So it helps our hotels get the right information for putting those bids together so that we can get business here in Manhattan.
So that ends the traditional part of our interview. We now move on, and I know you've listened to the show before, but we now move on to famous, infamous, we're not sure which, but people do listen and people do enjoy the rapid fire section of the podcast. So do you think you're ready to
I think I'm ready. I'm ready. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
People worry about it. It's usually much easier than they expect. Okay, so here we go.
Okay.
What movie have you seen the most?
My husband will tell you, Man from Snowy River.
Oh, you know what? I haven't watched that since I was in college.
I know. I watched it all the time in college.
We had it on videotape and watched it. And the horse going down the hill. Exactly. I forgot all about that movie.
And so when we lived down in the Northwest, we went to see that hill where the horses go down.
Oh, was that shot in the United States?
It wasn't. But I mean, they replicated that event.
Where they would do that.
Where they would do it.
That's pretty cool. Okay. Thanks for reminding me that. I'm gonna have to maybe go back and watch that movie. There was a 2 also.
Yeah, there was a 2. Yeah.
What do you want people to remember about you?
That I'm honest and kind.
Who inspires you the most and why?
My daughter inspires me the most. She really listened to us as we were raising her to go out and do while you're young, and so she has. So she inspires me. She's lived all over the world. It makes it fun to go travel and see her. And she's had 27 jobs in 27 years. I don't want to do that,
wow.
but she's tried and done everything.
Well, good for her. What is the most unusual pet you've had?
So growing up in St. Louis, we had similar to like our Sunset Zoo has an adopt-a program. I had a skunk that I adopted through the St. Louis Zoo program. And probably when I was in 5th grade, I got a picture taken with that skunk and it made it all over the United States. And family from all over had seen my picture in the paper.
Where is the coolest place you've traveled?
Fingal's Cave in Scotland. So we were fortunate to live in Scotland for a year. And Fingal's Cave is this unique place. You had to take a small boat out to the island, and then you walked along the side of it, and it had hexagon type of stonework. So it reminded me of the Flint Hills, but that was the coolest place.
What is the one thing that instantly makes your day better?
A text from my kids.
Explain an inside joke you have with a friend or family member.
So this is with my husband, and I say that I have a magic list. So on the kitchen counter, I can write anything down on that list, and within 4 days it appears because he does all the shopping. And then he has a magic sink because I do all the dishes.
What is the most ridiculous thing you believed as a child?
So when I watched The Wizard of Oz, because back in our era, Jason, because you and I are the same age, The Wizard of Oz always came on in October, year after year after year. And I believe that my kids didn't experience it like I did because there wasn't as many choices back in our time. But I always thought that the Wicked Witch would see me if I moved in my bed after having seen that movie. So I would lay in bed and not move because I thought she could see me.
There was definitely a lot of trauma when you were a kid around the Wicked Witch because you would, once a year, and it was a little stressful.
Yeah.
So, but we always watched it.
We did.
How do you deal with work stress?
I go out in nature. So as you all know, I'm a big paddler on the Kansas River. And so when I am stressed out, I unplug, unload from all the stress by just being out in nature.
And which Manhattan is a great place for that,
It is a great
right?
place for it. We've got a lot of great outdoors here. All out trails and places to be outside.
Yeah, I'll be glad when Linear Trail's back open.
Me too.
Last question. First and favorite concert?
So my first concert was John Denver back in 1979. And it was a special moment for me because I went with my parents. I'm the youngest of four, and it was rare that I ever was just me and my parents. But for some reason, the three of us went. So it's a great memory.
Where was it? At St. Louis?
It was where the Blues played, Kemper Arena. And then my favorite concert was Brad Paisley. He was here for a music concert that we had in town. And I remember I was instructed to wait at a spot by some of Kurt Muldrup, I'll just give him a shout out. He said, wait right here. And Brad Paisley ran right by me as he was going up on stage and went to give me a high five, and I left him hanging. He had a great concert. So that was probably a favorite.
We are in the same time frame, though, because my first concert was the Carpenters.
Oh, okay.
And the Carpenters and John Denver were kind of in that same period. So, and unfortunately, Karen and John both died tragically. So.
Yes, but a good era.
It was a good era for music. So, Marcia, thank you so much for being on with us. Thank you again for agreeing to be Manhattan's new director of Visit Manhattan, and we're looking forward to great things.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Thanks for listening to this episode of ThinkMHK, a podcast produced by the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce. If you enjoyed the ThinkMHK podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe and share it out on your social media channels. Feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce.